Hello, this is Zachariah, whom you may recognize as one of the hosts of this very show. Along with what I do here with Dr. Caleb, I also do a lot of my own independent work over on Roll for Writing, which is my creative blog, which you may recognize from me plugging it at the end of these shows. Recently, I made my first foray into doing my own audio and visual projects, and to that end, I started an official YouTube channel for those pieces. Roll for Writing Presents. I released my first project under that name at the start of this month, April 2024, and have several more queued up at the time of this plug. Caleb, in addition to being my co-host here, is also one of my best friends, and so he invited me to record this and do a bit of in-house advertising. A big thank you to him, as well as a thank you for being an utter delight to work with here on SCPod. So, head on over to www.makeawritingcheck.blogspot.com and click on the link on the right-hand bar, or head on over to YouTube and search Roll for Writing Presents. Thank you. Back to the show.
Hello, fellow scholars and purveyors of morbid curiosities alike. Welcome back to SCPod. I'm Caleb, joined by my partner in grime, Zach. Zach, how are you today?
Much better now that we were released from 173 duty. I haven't blinked in a week, which is confusing for ways I can't describe.
Well, speaking of that, before we get into today's episode, I want to first shout out this show's sponsor, the audience. The keen and loyal viewers will have noticed that we took a month between our last episode and this one. Our last episode featured a recording of our seminar to new researchers, and the O5 Council was not fond of us leaking certain Foundation secrets and airing some not-so-clean laundry. So we were temporarily assigned a field study of the sculpture, having our eyes trained on 173 for regular cleanings. And there is no better way to build a friendship than to rely on your friend to not blink while you do, and hope that you get to complete your blink. Isn't that right, Zach?
It is right, and for this, I just want to go ahead and say that we give our condolences to the family of Dr. Robertson. He would be missed if anyone remembered who he was.
Anyways, R.I.P. Because of the warm reception of the first 4 episodes, we've been given a green light for Season 2, and as long as we continue to get good ratings, we will stay researchers and not risk dismemberment or worse. So thank you all for helping us escape annihilation, and let's get into the spooky thing that we are covering. And what is that this week, Zach?
So this week, for a variety of reasons, including the thing with 173, today we are talking about SCP-294 live from the second floor break room. We know what this is. Caleb, do you want to just describe the coffee machine over there?
Yes. So, item number SCP-294. I have the documents right in front of me. I'm reading them on the coffee table as we're speaking.
The file room was just open, so we just kind of walked in and took it.
Yeah. So, item number SCP-294. Object Class Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. There are no standard special containment procedures on file for item SCP-294.
Great job, guys.
However, only personnel of security clearance level 2 or higher are allowed to interact with it. SCP-294 is currently being stored in the second floor personnel break room and is monitored by 2 guards of security clearance level 3 at all times.
Except right now, when they're nowhere in sight.
They just let anybody into here.
Yeah, cutting measure my ass.
Item description. Item SCP-294 appears to be a standard coffee vending machine. The only noticeable difference being an entry touchpad with buttons corresponding to an English QWERTY keyboard. Upon depositing 50 cents US currency into the coin slot, the user is prompted to enter the name of any liquid using the touchpad. Upon doing so, a standard 12-ounce paper drinking cup is placed and the liquid indicated is poured. 97 initial test runs were performed, including requests for water, coffee, beer, and soda, non-consumable liquids such as sulfuric acid, wiper fluid, and motor oil, as well as substances that do not usually exist in a liquid state such as nitrogen, iron, and glass. And each one returned to success. Test runs with solid materials such as diamond have failed, however, as it appears that SCP-294 can only deliver substances that can exist in liquid state. It is of note that after approximately 50 uses, the machine would not respond to further requests. After a period of approximately 90 minutes, the machine seemed to have restocked itself. It is also interesting to note that many caustic liquids that would have eaten through a normal paper cup seem to have no effect on the cups dispensed by this machine. Testing is ongoing. As suggested, SCP-294 was moved to the second floor personnel break room as a money-saving venture. Following Incident 294-01, guards were stationed at the item, and a security clearance became necessary to interact with it.
So a couple things I just want to poke holes in, just because we're right here already, is that one, the guards aren't here. Two, anything is consumable once, so the idea of non-consumable liquids is ridiculous. Second and thirdly, for the security clearance, it's one of those cases where like the card reader outside of the door is just always activated, and so you can just walk in here during business hours. So survey says all that's a lie.
Yeah, I mean, like, we literally, like...
I forgot my badge at home
I
today.
went and put some eyedroppers in my eye, and then, like, we were like, well, I guess, like... I mean, I turned to Zach and I said, I need something to drink. Let's go to the coffee machine. And we walked right in. Nobody even looked at us funny.
No.
Minus the people that usually look at us funny.
Right. And people who don't even acknowledge our existence.
So, you know, the coffee machine is a very rumor-filled object in this site, and I think in the Foundation as a whole.
Yeah.
And I have heard so many stories about this specific object. I mean, I think that there's probably more stories about this than there are about random tests with 682. So, Zach, what are some of your favorite stories?
I think the one that I usually tell new people the first time is about the agent who ordered a cup of Joe, and unfortunately his name was Joseph, and so like he got a cup of his own bodily fluids and crap like that. And so obviously because he suddenly got 12 ounces of himself taken out, he basically just keeled over right then and there, and then had to be like put into like the ER for like a month. Which, I mean, wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. It's definitely not the worst thing that's happened to anyone, like, this week. But the idea that he also had, a disciplinary meeting afterwards is very funny to me. And indicative of probably a few things about the Foundation that it's a little silly. And, of course, like, the other thing people usually try to do is, like, they summon gold.
Yeah. And from what I remember, the whole Cup of Joe incident is kind of why it has the security clearance and everything when it's working, of course.
Yeah.
But it's kind of the whole reason that it's even remotely guarded as it is.
Right, which is...
I'm sure the Foundation would love to just use this for morale.
Oh, yeah, totally. Or, like, I'm surprised we haven't used it as a disciplinary measure yet. Like,
oh yeah,
You did not do well in your last performance evaluation. Prepared to be reduced by 12 ounces.
Yeah, well, and it's kind of interesting because of how literal that this old piece of junk has kind of taken that. Because, like, you know, colloquially we refer to Cup of Joe as, you know, coffee and stuff like that, but the coffee machine definitely took that a little more personal.
Yeah, well, basically, it kind of makes me think, because we, like, one of the things about this is that we're pretty sure it can read your mind to some extent, and so, like, I wonder if, like, because of the fact that the agent Joseph was trying to make a joke on his own name when he was doing it, if that played a role into it. Whereas
I hadn't thought about
whereas like if I go in like wanting a cup of coffee and just put up a cup of Joe just because I'm being cute that day, if it just gives me coffee, or if I'm assaulting my coworker accidentally.
that. If it goes after the same Joe.
Right, like is it like a cup of?
He's just sitting in the hospital bedroom, just like
Is it a cup of? Is it
every couple hours.
is it cup of Joe First Blood Part 2?
Yeah.
And
Cup of Joe 2 Electric Boogaloo.
right, like how literal is this thing? It's I think it's as literal as the person using it is intending to be. Like there's also the other thing where like we used it to remove the leukemia cells from a D class's body, and like he just didn't have leukemia for a week.
Yeah. And they like did tests and found out that it actually took all the leukemia from him, and then it came back, unfortunately.
Yeah,
But
he's super dead. But
yeah. One of my favorite stories is the person that came in and asked for 075 secretion, which for people listening, 075 is an SCP that secretes this very corrosive liquid, and so far we haven't found anything that can actually house it because it dissolves anything that it touches. But for some reason, this inconspicuous, this strange cup could hold the secretion, and that is a durability feat unlike anything that the Foundation knows.
right, what I'm kind of wondering is like, has anyone just taken a cup without ordering something? Like, if we just open up the machine, get a cup, and then put the secretions into it, if it still works.
Look, man, I'm all for running tests on things, especially if is seemingly safe enough, like the coffee machine. But this is still an SCP that we're touching currently,
Right.
and
Like
I don't want to get up in its insides.
I don't know. I mean, I feel it'd be kind of fun. Like, it's also worth pointing out, and we can't stress this enough, that this thing is Euclid and not actually safe. Which I don't understand at all. Every now and then you come across an entity like this where it's like, I don't know like why it has the classification it has. Like, we've definitely changed classifications on other entities. This is, if anything should qualify as safe, this is it. Like, it's less dangerous directly than the foot of the bed, which is a safe class. And we have that one in a cage, and this one we just have in a break room.
See, it is my thought behind this that like maybe it's classified as Euclid for our own good, because if just anybody has access to this, because for all intents and purposes, I am touching the coffee machine right now. I am rubbing my hand against it as I am speaking, and it is not attacking me. So it is a very safe one to be around.
Dr. Caleb, are you telling me that the real monster was man all along?
That's what I'm saying. Is like it's not the fact that it itself is malicious or dangerous. It's that man is dangerous.
I wonder if we can use this thing to get like nuclear material.
I bet we could. My thought was, can I get clam chowder from this?
Oh, probably. I mean, it's a liquid.
And you know what? I'm here. I have 50 cents.
Yeah.
Sure enough, that looks like clam chowder in the cup.
That is clam jizz. Man.
Do you remember the story about the cup of anti-water?
Oh yeah, which is probably the stupidest thing anyone's ever done. Because if it were,
there's been some stupid things.
And I say that with knowledge of those stupid things, and as a participant in those stupid things. But like, of all the things to like try and kill you, like, if that had worked, it would have caused like a nuclear explosion.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, why anti-water specifically? Like,
Oh,
you could ask for antimatter or like something like extra dimensional or something like that. But like anti-water specifically just sounds like difficult.
yeah, and like that's one of like the reasons why we know this thing probably doesn't go across dimensional lines.
Yeah, yeah,
Probably.
and then like it's interesting to learn the rules of 294 because like I remember the reason we know that diamonds don't work is a researcher was like, hey, I want diamond, and uh, the thing gave the same error that it always gives, out of range.
Yeah.
And it's theorized that diamonds can't exist in a liquid form, and so it couldn't come out as a liquid. But then the same researcher put in liquid carbon, and it worked, and it didn't have any of the corrosive properties to the cup, much like 075 secretion.
Which is weird for other reasons, because liquid carbon can't normally exist at normal atmospheric pressures. Like, you would need 100 atmospheres of pressure for that to be the case. And so the fact that it stayed a liquid is also weird.
Yeah. It there's if there's a few things that are very telling about the anomalous properties, it's very much like how certain things can remain a liquid, as well as just the durability of the stupid paper cup now that I'm now eating clam chowder out of.
Yeah, I kind of wonder, like, if there's any downsides to interacting with the cup. Like, this could be like an easy test for us to do at some point, where like we just stick a D class in the room with a cup for a couple days and see what happens. Like, is the cup anomaly? Has anyone checked?
Yeah, like, is the cup actually made out of paper?
Yeah.
The description says it's a 12-ounce paper cup, but like, I've never seen paper cup that could house
Like,
liquid gold.
yeah, and that's the other thing. It's like, and this may be just me being, a little too hair splitty for my own good, but in the initial description it says like corrosive materials, but it doesn't mention like extreme temperature material of extreme temperature, while also like not mentioning the effects of the paper cup upon like, or the liquid gold on the paper cup. But like, we know that if you put liquid gold into the paper cup, it's fine. So I'm not sure why they specified that, not along with other like odd materials that would be odd in a paper cup. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I do remember hearing. You probably remember the researcher that typed in just "surprise me."
Yeah, don't do that.
It came out. Yeah, and it came out with a cup that had water in it, but the water was temped out to 200 degrees Celsius, which is incredibly hot. And then after being picked up, the contents of the cup turned into steam and then erupted in a 2-meter radius around.
Well, yeah, that's the thing.
Like,
That's the thing.
Talk about a surprise.
Well,
but
yeah, I mean that's the thing, because hundreds. That's double the normal boiling range of water in general. So like any amount of agitation is just going to cause that shit to, revert to the chemical state it should be already.
Right.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I wonder if that's the default response for surprise me, or if this is another case of like it reads the mind and it just generates a random response.
Dr. Zach, please take your hand away from the thing. I just got off 173 duty. I do not want to go to the hospital with steam burns.
You don't know if it would be steam burns.
I'm not willing to try this.
If it makes you feel better, I was going to go for nuclear material.
Oh, even better.
Another thing you probably... I'll say, like, another thing you probably shouldn't do, like a rabbit hole, is don't go down looking for, like, best drinks ever it's not worth it.
Oh, right. Are you talking about the guy who asked for the best drink ever and then promptly committed suicide because he was let down by literally everything else that he's ever had?
Yeah, and so like on one hand, I want to know what that tastes like, but on the other hand, like I already have depression, and I don't need to make it worse.
Yeah, like I'll tell you what, if we ever get fired from the facility, on our way out we'll grab some.
I'm still going to go for the nuclear material. Or like no, all we could do is like, because like in the periodic table of elements, there are the metals that only exist under like really specific circumstances.
Oh,
And
right,
we
right,
already
right.
know that like this thing can summon liquid carbon, and so like I wonder if I can get like liquid Einsteinium out of this thing, and then like how quickly like, because we also know that it can exist in a liquid state, but if it's not supposed to be a liquid state, any sort of jostling will cause it to go do the same thing that the superheated liquid did with the steam. Uh, so like if we get material that's not supposed to be at a liquid state under normal circumstances and then agitate it, and then it basically super expands into whatever state it's supposed to be anyway.
Well, okay, so my problem with that theory is like we've had liquid carbon, we've had liquid gold,
Mm.
and things that are not supposed to be in a liquid form at room temperature, or even at the temperature that the coffee machine puts it out at.
Mm.
And as far as I know, there's not too much mention about those being agitated and then turning solid suddenly. I almost wonder if the surprise me test was the coffee machine actually trying to surprise them by having the liquid erupt into steam. It makes sense
Oh.
chemically as well, but it's almost my thought that with how much of a smartass, I love you, coffee machine, with how much of a smartass this coffee machine can be at times,
Mm.
that like it did take surprise me literally and try to surprise people.
Yeah, because like the surprise wasn't the liquid itself; it was the reaction of the liquid in doing the thing.
Yeah,
Okay, that's cute and homicidal.
yeah. So that's kind of my head canon with
Okay.
it.
Um, Also, kind of want to point out that you can also order a cup of an abstract concept. Like, there's the guy, you probably heard this one. Some guy ordered a cup of medical knowledge during a site breach.
Right, right.
Um, and I kind of wonder, like, how far that goes.
Well, okay. So from what I remember about it, it was like a containment
Yeah.
breach, and he was able to order a cup of medical knowledge that he then drank and was able to perform medical procedures on his fellow members, but then afterwards they could not ask for the same thing, and so it was kind of theorized that it was done in a life-saving preventative measure of
No,
not
sure, that's
just the
right.
team but also of the SCP itself.
Well, I mean, like, well, sort of the counter that point, uh, is that the guy who got a cup of pretty much everything about his entire life and then wrote his entire autobiography.
Right, right.
And so, like,
It's
I don't like, maybe that's why it's Euclid, where it's just like it's not Euclid because of how dangerous it is. It's Euclid because we have no idea how this thing works.
right, right, and kind of building off of that, they did run a few tests where they had this like really abstract uh, like mixture of different types of liquid, and then they put it. I think it was like 25 meters away or something like that.
Hmm.
And then they asked for the same cup, and it basically transported from the cup that was 25 meters away into the cup that was right in the anomalous paper cup.
Yeah.
And so, it does kind of show that like this thing almost teleports liquids instead of like creating liquid. It teleports it from elsewhere.
Hmm.
But and I think that that's interesting because wasn't there was a whole test done where they were like asking for different blood from different animals that have gone extinct or not extinct. You know, they asked for like blood of a wolf. They asked for, and then it gave them the blood, and then it was like blood of like a passenger pigeon, and it was like out of range because passenger pigeons are no longer a thing anymore.
Yeah, but
same with Smilodons.
But that's the thing, though, is like they did get one of the random things that they did get blood from one extinct animal. I can't remember which one it was, but they got blood from at least one extinct animal, and then there was a big hullabaloo about where it actually came from.
Right, and I remember that was like the leading thing, at least from what I heard in my circles. This is years before you and I met up to do this podcast, but from what I heard from people around the time was that like it was almost like, oh, is this animal still around and we just don't know about it? Kind of like the coelacanth.
Yeah, like my theory was that like we probably have. I would not be surprised if someone told me that we have a room full of extinct animal blood somewhere around here. And I kind of I kind of wonder if that's where it came from, but I have no proof that that's the case.
Yeah, kind of building off what you were talking about earlier with the perfect drink. There's been a few people that I remember have actually gone up and just put like the best drink I've ever had, hoping to get like quote unquote the perfect drink, but instead got like the best drink that they've literally ever had. And I remember one guy got this like crazy good rum and coke that he remembered. And then another guy got a Vienna lager that was associated with a memory, and part of the liquid that came out was a picture of him and his friends drinking this beer on a beach.
That's cute.
Yeah, but it goes into that like mind reading capabilities that you were talking about earlier with like, you know, this thing can like almost jump into your head and pull out that specific drink. And even with the whole Cup of Joe thing, it's like maybe that's also why it's anomalous. It's like we don't know what it can do with that.
Yeah, that's a good point. So like, yeah, it ends up being like one of those SCPs that we think is harmless, and then like suddenly goes the way of the teddy bear.
Right.
Which we want to point out it's still out there somewhere, and if anyone sees it, to let the security team know. Though, honestly, Dr. Caleb, there's one point I really want to make, and I've been kind of sitting on it this entire time. If you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
The reason why this thing is in the break room, at least on paper, is as a cost-cutting measure. And I want to stress enough. I can't stress enough that we are a interdimensional, multi-quadrillion dollar organization that deals with power beyond the ken of gods. And the Foundation, in its infinite wisdom, is trying to cut down on Keurig costs in one site in one break room.
I understand that, especially, you know, from what we were talking about at the foot of the bed, 072, with like low light cameras and stuff. But, you know, how difficult would it be to have a vending machine? I mean, you take all the abstract stuff aside, you know. There's some guy that asked about a cup of music and got some weird ass shit out of it. But like, if you want to account for like everything that a site would want, sodas, coffees, teas, energy drinks, so on and so forth, like this vending machine would be absolutely massive. So, and like, as much as this coffee machine doesn't seem to have like a personality or anything like that, this is still an anomalous object. This is still an SCP.
Yeah.
We do not know how to recreate this. And so I think it would be great if we could recreate it and put it in every site of the SCP Foundation. But right now we just have the one, and we have not found another. And so I understand it's probably a cost-cutting measure, but like to account for all the choices that you could get from this coffee machine, I think you would have to bring in like some anomalous other vending machine.
Right, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's like, how much money are we really saving on doing this, and does it actually matter considering all of our other stuff? Like,
Now,
how much? What
is
do we spend on like all the stuff we throw at 682? Like, what's that yearly budget look like?
right.
Or
You know, they talk about the U.S. having the largest military budget.
They haven't seen ours.
Nothing compared to, yeah.
like we have,
I've seen MTFs with whole country GDPs behind them.
right, and that's just Tuesday. But like, seriously, what are we saving by doing this? And I mean, like, I'm not saying this, but like, please, for the love of God, don't take this away. This is the only thing some of us have anymore. But it's, what are we doing here? What's the point? What is this?
Yeah, it is interesting, and I wonder what the implications are. The other thing is, like, it costs 50 cents to use this, right?
Yeah. Where did that go, by the way? Like,
where does that go?
Like, who's getting the 50 cents out of this? Like, is there just
exactly?
Is there like is there just a pocket dimension just filled with quarters and now like JFKs?
Well, what I thought is, like, what if the quarters is what powers this? Like, it's like that's what it uses for energy.
Like, no, because like we haven't even verified if this thing's plugged into anything.
I don't even see a cord coming from this.
Yeah, I'm over here. Do you see it? I don't see it.
Yeah. Like, it's incredible. The last story I remember, and this one cracks me up so much, is somebody asked for the blood of Christ.
And it just gave him some fucking wine.
It gave him, like, very little wine. Very little wine. And then did some prophetic, like, Latin or something that I'm sure is written in the notes over here, but I'm not proficient in Latin.
And it's like this.
My PhD is in spooky stuff,
right? And it's like it really puts some makes me think about the whole thing about transubstantiation. But I'm not a theologian.
Well, and it almost makes me think, right? Like, this thing can definitely read minds. What if I wonder what the test would be if it was the blood of Christ from a known Christian that wholeheartedly believes in the Bible versus somebody who does not hold a Christian belief.
Well, I mean, that's the thing with transubstantiation is that if you believe that's the whole thing and that the wine and the bread you receive during communion is literally the blood and body of Christ, then that's exactly what you're going to get is the wine and the manna. So, I mean, I think if you were a Christian and you do that, you're still going to get the wine. And so I kind of want to say that might just be the machine being cute. But, like, I kind of want to know, like, under what circumstances could I get actual, like, Jesus blood and not kill, like, Dr. Jesus in the next lab over?
Right. Yeah, it's, it is funny that the coffee machine does really kind of have a sense of humor to it.
Uh-huh.
Like, there was the researcher as well, and this will be the last story I talk about because, you know, I don't want to bore our listeners, but the cup of room temperature superconductor, and it was just apple juice with seeds in it.
God damn it!
Like, it is so funny, and you know, I love that this thing exists. I love that we get to use it. I mean, I love that it's unguarded.
Yeah. I'm sure there's even a budget for the guards. I just don't know where they are.
They also indulged in the best drink they've ever had.
Oh man. God.
You know, the other thing, going back to the kind of the money thing of it, is like 50 cents for a drink.
Yeah.
Like, I know this thing was found like a decade ago or something, but like, how long has it been since 50 cents can buy you 12 ounces of any liquid?
Oh, probably not since Reagan.
Exactly. Like, this is the cheapest drink on the face of the planet. And I mean, like having the exotic stuff aside, you know, like cups of gold and whatnot, like just like a cup of water, 12 ounces of water for 50 cents, and like you can go to an airport and spend $4 for the
Don't
same amount of
remind
water.
me, good lord.
And the other thing that kind of makes me think is it specifies 50 cents U.S. currency.
Yeah, I think
You could not put 50 Canadian dollars or 50 Canadian cents in there.
I wonder, like, the question, like, if you put foreign currency in there, if it does, like, equivalent to, like, if I put the equivalent of 50 US cents in Canadian coins, or, like, Euro coins in there, if it'll count.
At the conversion rate or whatever.
Yeah, I don't have the on me, and it's not mentioned in the documents, otherwise we would just do it, but, like, I mean, it reads your mind. It does other shit, so why doesn't it also do, like, currency exchange?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have time.
This thing can literally transport liquid from space and time.
Yeah, so, like, all I'm saying, like, it would be reasonable that if it wasn't so nationalistic in its currency preferences.
Dr. Zach, have you ever watched SpongeBob?
Yeah, when I was younger.
So I was thinking about this earlier when we had kind of talked about this. I have this vague memory of like somebody scamming a vending machine in SpongeBob by like tying the coin with a string and then like putting it in and then like pulling it out. Do you have the same memory?
Yeah.
I spent the last 50 cents I have on that clam chowder, and let me tell you, audience, that was definitely worth 50 cents. But I do wonder if A, that is possible, B, if it goes into a pocket dimension, we're going fishing for, you know, pocket dimension fish, and C, like, what would happen if we were able to scam the coffee machine?
Oh. Huh. I'm free this afternoon. What about you?
After the month that we've had, I just want to go home and, you know, as researchers of the SCP Foundation, we don't have very much of a personal life, but I just want to sleep and I want to close my eyes for, well, until we record our next episode.
That's true.
So the other thing I was thinking about in regards to the money side of this stuff is, who carries coins anymore?
God, not
Like,
me.
I only do because I know this is here. This thing really needs to upgrade to Apple Pay, and if it needs to like up the amount that it needs to charge to take credit for that or whatever, but
like just put like a goddamn card reader on it or something.
Exactly. Whatever interdimensional being is servicing this machine and is hopefully longtime listener of the podcast, interdimensional electrician, please put a card reader on this thing. I don't want to have to carry around $1.50 every day so that I can get my clam chowder and whatever various liquids I feel like ingesting today.
Yeah, and like I don't have a problem with paying an extra $1.25 or so for my nuclear material.
Exactly.
Oh.
What drink are you craving right now?
Oh, I don't know. I could really go for like a vodka and lime.
I just want like a simple like IHOP coffee.
Alright. I mean, put it in the machine.
Well, I'm out of quarters at this point.
Yeah, and I haven't carried coins in like this decade.
What about what would it serve you if you put in best drink you've ever had?
Ooh. I don't know. I mean, recently, like, I've been on a real, like, Moscow Mule kick because I had one when I was coming back from JFK a couple months ago. Uh, and so it might be that. It might also be, like, the 1893, like, Pepsi that they stopped making years ago.
Okay.
It was, like, it was a little less sweet. It had a bit more, like, of a complex flavor profile on it. But because none of y'all people bought it other than me, they stopped making it.
Click below to sign our petition for it to come back.
And if you don't worry. Just look at the picture on the fax we send you, and all will be right in the world.
I am a little torn between my 21st birthday and the first White Russian I ever had. But then also the pho place I go to every week to unwind from work has pho chasers for their shots.
What?
It's a pho broth in a shot cup, and you do your shot and then you chase it with pho broth, and there is nothing that has ever hit quite like pho broth right after a shot.
That's beautiful.
Like, the pho broth is pretty alright, but it is just that moment right after taking a shot that it's amazing.
You know, like a couple years back, Campbell's tried to make like savory and salty cocktail mixes, like Campbell's soup.
Really?
Yeah. One of the YouTube channels I watch in my free time, How to Drink, did an episode with it, and like none of them were good. But it's really the idea of a soup company making like cocktail mixes, and so like the same idea, like the idea of doing like a chaser of pho broth is just very funny to me. Like, this soup really takes the edge off.
I mean, it really does. I'm not even gonna lie.
Oh, speaking of, Dr. Caleb.
Yes.
Happy birthday.
Well, I know where I'm going after work. Okay.
He's gonna get fucked up.
Random, depressing thoughts aside, I have a weird question for you. Obviously, we kind of went over the Euclid versus safe kind of thing for the coffee machine.
Yeah.
My question is, if this coffee machine was put into a standard office building, not the SCP Foundation,
Yeah.
but like a CPA firm,
Yeah.
do you think it would be dangerous?
I think
we're talking it has all the same capabilities.
so. Like, I think it would be eventually, just because most offices tend to have one guy who tends to screw around with stuff, and eventually, like, he would just because of the ability would put in something like liquid
Radioactive material.
or nuclear material, something like that, like plutonium, and then like you suddenly have a second Chernobyl in the middle of like Pennsylvania.
Okay, I thought about that as well. Like, you would definitely have a troll or two.
I think
that would.
I think eventually it would cause an untold ecological disaster, but for like, if it was out there in the wild for like a week, it'd probably be fine.
So my kind of question is, do you think it's safer here in the facility with a bunch of fucking weirdos like us that are going to ask for weird things out of it, or do you think it would be safer in a much more normal environment?
I think it's...
Obviously, they put clearance levels and stuff on this that, I mean, like, let's be honest, not working.
Yeah.
But, like, I almost think, like I said earlier and alluded to, the danger of this comes from the weirdos like you and me who just come up here and ask for stupid shit out of it.
Yeah, I think, like, it's safer here, if only because when it's here, it has the potential to do less harm overall.
It's regulated better.
I wouldn't even go that far, so much as, like, if the people that would die from it would be less than the people it would kill if it was just out there.
Okay, I can see that.
That, and not all Foundation staff are on censuses, so officially the death count would be lower anyway, just because certain people wouldn't be reported. Like, it could kill, if it killed a million D class, it would probably still be a 0 death toll.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say, like, we all know it, and like that even goes for some certain researchers.
Yeah. Okay.
Or like, or even in, like, just to throw out one more example, like if it killed Dr. Bright like 10 times, it would still not really have a death toll.
Right. Still a net zero.
Still a net zero.
As far as like power scaling goes, like I kind of want to like kind of introduce this thing where we kind of just think about how crazy some of these anomalies are. Mm-hmm. So for the coffee machine here, it definitely has mind reading capabilities.
Yeah.
Right. It has some sort of faster than light retrieval. You know?
Yeah.
It has to, right?
Mm.
So there's got to be, and that could be all sorts of weird stuff. Like maybe there's a pocket dimension or teleportation or something that is retrieving this liquid faster than light. It has the ability to buff others. It is a perfect support class.
Mm-hmm.
And it has very like indestructible durability with the cup.
Yeah, as far as we know, like as far as I know, no one's just shot at the thing before.
That's true. But I feel like if it can hold 075 secretion, if it can dodge a wrench, it can dodge a ball, is what I'm saying.
Right. And I feel like we've tested that in the context of like using the machine more or less as intended. But I kind of want to see what happens when we don't use it as intended, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, with the secretions, it's a case of, like, it's more or less still doing what it's meant to do in terms of dispensing a liquid into a cup. But, like...
Right, so maybe like, in the rules of the machine, it's like, the cup is indestructible to liquid.
Or, like, even with the